Today, let's see a kneeling spell in Unity. I made one like 6 years ago, but now let's see an updated version with some extra cool tricks. I've done a few more variations for my patrons, in case you are interested, links below. Plus, you get access to a huge library of visual effects that you can use in your project. So, without further ado, let's jump right into this. So let's start by creating a visual effect graph with right click, rename it and drag and drop it to the scene. Then you can press the edit button to open VFX Graph, and from here we're gonna begin by adding a flare to the ground, a glow to the ground. And in that case we don't need a constant spawn rate. We can replace it with a single burst of one particle. It's also not going to move, so let's delete set velocity. And lifetime can be fixed. Let's turn off random. 1 second for now should do just fine. And yeah, I'm gonna replace it with this flare 00, which is available for free on the link below. And then I'm gonna use the set size to increase it to 7.5. And in this case, the set size of our life needs to be in multiply, the composition. And we can use this curve right here, which goes from 0 to 1 in a straight line, but the first key we can push it to around 0.6, more or less. So it starts already with some size, and this is what we get. As you can see, it is facing the camera, and in this case we can delete the orient block up here, and here we go. But yeah, it's now perpendicular to the ground. By the way, you could use an output forward decal, so it adapts to the ground below. But in this case, up here I'm gonna say set angle and rotate it 90 degrees, and here we go, it's parallel to the ground. And now it's a matter of down here in set color overlife, the first key of the color, something green will do for a kneeling effect. We can actually remove this last color and push this alpha key more or less around here, so it's visible in the beginning and then it fades out. This is what we get. Alright, looking good. Now we are going to need a similar text to this one, and I'm going to show you how you can create one with Krita, because it's free and it's easy to pick up. I'm going to create a new file with 2048 by 2048, and the idea is very simple. We want to use this brush here, the hairbrush soft, and this is my settings. Yeah, it's soft. The idea is to use a white color and the opacity at around 40%, more or less. And then I'm gonna do some small strokes from the bottom to the top, and then a bigger one, and then smaller ones, like this. And with the blender smear brush now, with an opacity of around 40. Oh wait, let me make it smooth in the fade. Yeah, 0 for the fade. Now the idea is to, well, go up and down a few times. We are gonna essentially mix this up a little bit. And then let's go back to this brush here, and with the erase tool, well, I'm gonna remove some of this excess. We don't want this to have too much grays. We want just a little bit of white here and there, you know. Yeah, something like this will do just fine. I'm gonna duplicate this so it's a little bit more persistent. I'm gonna merge these two with Ctrl E. And the idea now is to use, in the filters, a motion blur at 90 degrees, for example, with a maximum amount, and then repeat again with Ctrl F a couple of times until this gets really smudged, you know, and you get this kind of god rays. Yep, and that's essentially it. Now I'm just going to duplicate this, make it smaller, like this, you know. Yeah, create a group, expand this a little bit, even though I lose quality, just a tiny bit to fill the square. Hide the black background, and yeah, export this as a PNG, and yeah, this is what we get. Now with this we can proceed with the next step, which essentially is, well, first let me create a group for the ground flare, and then copy and paste this with Ctrl C, Ctrl V for the god rays. We can call it god rays, it's alright. Let's go down here and replace the texture with the one we just created, and yeah, it's parallel to the ground. Let's use an orient block, set to face camera plane. We don't need this set angle up here. Yep, alright. And yeah, it's intersecting the ground, so I'm gonna use a set pivot to push this up. For example, a value of minus 0.2, minus 0.3 in the y, something like this. Yeah. And the gradient down here, it's gonna be the opposite. It's gonna take longer in the beginning to fade in, exactly, and then it fades out. I think it's a little bit too predominant, so I'm gonna use a set alpha to control its transparency, and I'm gonna say it's random between 0.1 and 0.2. We just want these small rays, essentially. Yep. Now I want this to go upwards, so on the update particle I'm gonna use the add velocity with a very small value on the y, like 0.01. This is what we get. And now yeah, I kinda need to shrink this a little bit, so I'm gonna use the set scale. I'm actually going to stretch it in the y, 1.8, which is a little bit too much, but I think that the texture came out with too many rays, so I'm gonna go back to Create and actually hide these two that I have duplicated here, and only export the first one we created before duplicating. Yep, exactly, something like this. That looks better. Probably it doesn't need to be that stretched. Yeah, you can play a little bit with this, but the idea is to have some rays in the center. That looks nice. In my case, I'm gonna decrease the lifetime to 0.9. And since we are creating something a little bit more complex, I want now like a flare coming from the ground and going upwards. So I'm gonna copy and paste this ground flare and call it the flare upwards. And this time I'm gonna add the orient block again, so it faces the camera plane. But the angle, it's gonna be 0, 0 in the x and y, but 360 and minus 360 for the z. I want some random rotation in this. It's not gonna live that long, like 0.8, and it's gonna go upwards, like I was saying, with the add velocity. Something like 0.06 should do the work. And let's see, yeah, it's huge. Okay, and it's not that great of a texture for this, but yeah, I'm gonna say the set size is 3.5, and its size over lifetime, it's gonna be different. It's gonna go from big to small. Exactly like this. Yeah, that one ray could be centered, by the way. Anyway, this is gonna have something like this for a texture. And I think it would be nice if it was rotating on itself. So on the update particle with an add angle, I'm gonna say it's rotating 0.7 on the z. Something like this, yeah. To create that texture, you can go back to create a new file. Select the airbrush soft, white color, opacity at 100, make this radius huge like this and click one time. Shrink it again while holding shift, click again and again. The idea is that we have a very bright spot on the center, and then we can duplicate this, and with Ctrl T I'm gonna shrink this vertically to something like this. Duplicate this ray. With Ctrl T rotate it 90 degrees. And then shrink the first light beam, the first brush that we added to have something like this. Looking good, look at this. We have a nice flare going on. Yeah, I'm just gonna create a group, by the way, to center this. And I'm gonna press Ctrl T and turn on these mirror options up here, just so I can get these guides on the screen and I can center this. That's good. Alright, disable it, hide the black background and export this as a PNG. And here we go. That adds a nice touch. Obviously you can test different textures. I'm just giving you an idea on how to create a annealing effect different from the one that I created previously, way back. Okay, now this always needs some kind of burst of particles, tiny particles. It will look awesome. So let's add a new simple particle system. Replace the constant spawn rate with a burst of 25. You can increase the capacity of these if you want, for example. Yeah, this is going to spawn in a sphere shape, by the way. And that sphere, we are going to stretch it. First we are going to say the radius is 0.7. And we are going to push it above the ground. in the y-axis 2.5. Here we go. And now I'm going to stretch this vertically, 3.5 on the y, and make it a little bit wider, 1.2. Here we go. From there, the set velocity can be 0 on the x and on the z, but 0.5 and 5 on the y. So it goes up. We are going to add movement to the sides in a moment. Let's just decrease lifetime to 0.8 and 1.6. And let's make sure that they all have a random rotation. With a set angle, random yes, 360 and minus 360 on the z axis. Looking good. Now, this can be replaced with the flare we just created, and it will look much better. They all have the same size, but we are going to take care of that in a moment. Let's now, on the update particle, add a turbulence module. This will take care of kinda, it's like a noise, and it will wiggle a bit to the sides and it will look more interesting. We can say the intensity is random between 1 and 3. Here we go, that's nice. And we can also add rotation to each of these particles with an add angle at 0.5 on the z. Now we want them to disappear by shrinking them, right? So on the set size of our life, this is going to be the curve we are going to use from big to small. And then we can use a set size to say that they are random between 0.05 and 0.2. Something like that, so they don't have all the same size. Oh yeah, set size of our life needs to be in multiply, the composition. Here we go. Yeah, they could be bigger by the way, but yeah, on the set color, I'm actually going to say that this is a green, but increase the intensity. And here we go. They are really bright, and then they shrink. Looking good. That's an healing buff you got there going on. Yeah, that flare going up could be brighter. I'm just gonna go to the flare upwards, and in set color over life, say the first key, the intensity is something like 2. Here we go. It's a small touch. You can also turn on use soft particle so it fades in every time it touches geometry. Here we go. That's nice, very nice. It could be high, it could go higher, 0.065 for example. Anyway, now these would look awesome if we added spiral, these curvy paths. That's how this becomes so interesting. I'm just gonna copy and paste from one of the VFX graphs that I had here for the healings, but I want to say that this is all explained in a tutorial that I've done very recently for you, this one right here, the curvy paths tutorials, where we do exactly the same thing and we focus only on creating, well, that wisp, that curvy path that goes whew, and it looks awesome. It really adds a special touch to visual effects, and I highly recommend you to check out this tutorial because you are gonna learn a very useful technique. Once you have done it, you will get these awesome curvy paths that you can add to your healing effect and they will look awesome. So yeah, that's essentially it. I have added a few more healing effects for you in case you want to be my patron, and you will get access to many more projects and assets and visual effects that you can use in your games. It's really an awesome library. I left a link below. I want to say thank you to each patron that supported me last month, and a quick special shout out goes to the top tier patrons, which are Alberto Sageras, Alexei, Alian Alstad, Aviat Tobali, Cybercradle, Daniel Schmidt, David Molina, Diego Marques, Lua Ama, Frosty40, Grub Lab, Jarrett Billy, Jonathan Carlson, Casey Miller, Lee Ann Holt, Matt Moore, Mike Bell, Moop SDA, O'Brien, Oitz, Pierre Mario Roux, Pradip Sen, Radioactive Bullfrog, Revenant Games, RVR, Sean Aguilar, Spence, Stefani Krasnovsky, Strom, Teen, Very Suited, Whatever Marta, Will Poilian, Zoya Konash, Bizina Seru, Tone Koto, Xian Pianlin, Minjae Kim, and Sanyan Yo. So that's it folks, I hope you have enjoyed this healing tutorial, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you, bye!